welcome back, everyone, for another CBSI Hot 10 show. Make sure you go over to comicbookinvest.com and check out the article where I may put a few extra details and tidbits that I don't cover here on the show tonight. And while you're at it, check out all of the other content we have here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And after I'm done here, make sure you stick around for the qualified, which will start up immediately after the Hot 10. But definitely make sure you come back tomorrow night, as the boys will be doing a special claim sale to support our buddy Kyle, who is having a rough go of it right now, and we could really use your help and your support. So please come back tomorrow and check out the show and do what you can. All right, that's all I'm asking. So with that all said, hopefully you're enjoying what you see here on the channel, and I will be right back with the Hot 10 right now.
Notable sales.
All right, so for our first notable sale, this is a classic variant that has withstood the test of time. This is one of those grail books for a lot of folks out there, including myself, as I've never come across this or had a chance to pick one up at a price that I can afford. But this is the Batman 608 Jim Lee retailer incentive. Impossible to find, as I said, and this book sells for a ton. Specifically, we have here a case of a CGC 9.0. Not a 9.8, 9.0, sold at an all-time high this week of $2,800. That's $2,800 for a 9.0. Last sold in this grade, February, $1,300. So that's quite an increase. That's more than double the last sale in this grade for a CGC 9.0. That's an impressive sale. Again, you had the first run of Hush. It is a very popular book. It is not easy to find, but 9.0, man. $2,800. It's impressive. Now, that's not the only impressive sale we had this week. The other notable that I want to cover and talk about here is this one. Another classic variant that many folks have been chasing for years. This is Amazing Spider-Man 678, that MJ venomized Face It Tiger. You just lost the jackpot. You know, the callback to the original MJ first appearance. But here she is, venomized, playing into the fact that she's currently Venom, etc. I get it. But this particular book sold this week raw, not even graded. A raw copy of this book sold for $2,500. $2,500 for a raw copy of this variant. Granted, that was on a best offer accepted on a $3,500 ask, but they still got $2,500 for this thing. That's the highest sale raw since last August, when one sold for $1,600. Crazy. Again, not an easy book to find. It is a variant that many folks still are out there hunting and searching for. One of those classics, those OG original, hardest to find, variant incentives that everybody's been chasing, from the the Supergirl Losh, and you got the Delato Spider-Man right around this time as well. This is a tough book. Now, with that said, those are the notable sales I have for you this week. But before we get into the Hot 10, I want to remind you folks out there who might need supplies, use my code RENA10 over at BCW. Get your bags, your boards, your long boxes, your short boxes, CGC boxes, top loaders for your cards, pages for your cards. Basically, you need supplies to keep your comics and collectibles safe. You could probably find something over at BCW. And if you're going to spend money on those supplies, you might as well save some money while you do it. So use my code RENA10 for 10% off your entire order. You help out the channel. You get yourself a discount. You got nothing to lose there. Now, with all of that said, let's get into the top 10 starting right now.
Number 10.
Okay, our first book is a new release this week. This is a new release incentive, 1 of 100, J. Scott Campbell. Yes, it's MJ. And this month we're seeing many Marvel J. Scott Campbell variants, and all of them have 1 of 100 Virgin variants. But so far, out of the gate, the first group of covers that have come out, this has been the standout of the bunch. This is the 1 of 100 Amazing Spider-Man number 9. Like I said, Mary Jane in her little Daisy Duke shorts there. This book, it's doing better than you might expect. As I said, it's standing out from the pack, as we've had over a dozen sold, which is a decent amount for a 1 in 100 variant after only a day or two on the market. Keep that in mind, too. I'm cutting this on Friday. Books just came out on Wednesday. but averaging $131 already is a premium over that 1 in 100 variant incentive. Highs hitting 160, and that is not something we always see. And like I said, this one's standing out from the pack of another half dozen other J. Scott Campbell 1 in 100s that came out this week. So the MJ seems to be standing apart and something to keep an eye on in the week or so in the weeks ahead, I guess. But that is our number 10 book. So with that, let's keep the list rolling and check out and see what we got at number 9.
Number 9.
So here at number 9, we have another new release incentive variant, but this one on the easier to obtain end in the sense that it is a much lower ratio incentive. This is the Tama number 1. Going for sort of like an evil Pokemon sort of vibe, as you can gather from the cover, which is a homage to those old Game Boy Pokemon advertisements from back in the day. Tony Fleece cover here on this 1 in 10. As I said, it's a 1 in 10. Much easier to get a 1 in 10 than in a 1 in 100, as shops don't have to order quite as many to get this incentive variant. However, I'm not sure many shops have ordered 10 copies of Tama number 1 as they might have ordered for ASM number 9, because ASM is probably one of their best-selling titles. So some bigger shops ordering 100 copies isn't that crazy of an idea. But Tama getting 10 copies ordered, maybe. I don't know. With that said, I've liked this cover since I've seen it. It's a fun little callback. I dig it. I like the purple here. I like the homage to the Pokemon. I'm not a Pokemon guy myself. It was a little bit after my time, but I can appreciate, and I do remember, and it gives me a bit of a nostalgia seeing this advertisement redone here as a cover. But with over 15 sold, averaging $26, that's not bad for a 1 in 10 right out of the gate to be over 2.5 times your incentive ratio as an average price point, as highs have already hit as much as $50. $50 for a 1 in 10 isn't something we see every week, which is why this earns itself a spot here at number 9. Now, with that said, we're not going to stop there. We're going to keep the list rolling and check out what we got next.
Number 8.
So here at number 8, we have a book that's actually been selling for the last couple of weeks. Based off of the news that Colbert was going to be canceled, a lot of folks have decided to go back and pick up this book, which is not actually that old. This is World's Finest number 40. This is the Colbert cover done by Dan Mora. You know, these World's Finest covers have done a lot of celebrity, little celebrity covers. There was that Guy Fieri one. There was the Paul McCartney one, etc. But here we have Colbert on this World's Finest number 40. And the last couple of weeks, it's been pretty consistent. Seen about a couple dozen sales each of the last couple of weeks. It's still averaging about $20, which isn't bad for a $4.99 cover price open order book when it came out. Highs hitting $25 this week. It's something to keep an eye on and something that's been doing well, as I said, this week and last week when you factor everything in. But it earns itself a spot here at number 8 near the bottom of the list because, again, it's doing pretty well, but not quite as well as some of our other books, which we have coming up to you next here with lucky number 7.
Number 7.
All right, so this one might not have the volume yet of the Colbert book, but the increase and the jump is pretty significant. This is the Punisher 218, where he's wearing that War Machine armor. The second print cover for this. There is multiple covers on this. Everybody knows the John Bernthal photo cover. That's a very popular one. There is an incentive variant for this book as well. And there is the regular cover, which a lot of folks are also buying. And then there's the lenticular, which does this War Machine homage where it lenticular back and forth between the original cover and the this image of Punisher wearing the War Machine armor. However, the second print takes the lenticular out of the picture and just gives you that art with Punisher dressed up in his War Machine armor, which is a rumor to happen in Brand New Day. That's how Punisher's going to be hanging with Spidey and some of these other villains, is that he may be sporting his own form of armor in that film. Who knows? It's speculation, it's rumor, but it's driving sales. Granted, this book had one sale last week. This week, we've already seen a dozen, which is an 1,100% increase. It's still just a dozen, but it's a dozen at the rate of $82 a copy on average. $82 on average, with highs hitting 125 for this second print variant. Again, it's just a second print variant. It's not an incentive. It was open order. It may not be the easiest thing to find. A lot of these second prints on these lenticulars are actually pretty collectible if you can find them. But this one right now is standing out from the pack, and even standing out to me more so than the regular cover, which is selling well and it's doing pretty well. It's still selling like, about $50 for the regular 218, but the second print, again, $82 on average, 125 highs, and the increase going from one copy sold to a dozen this week. It stood out a little bit more, which is why I made this book number 7. Now, with that said, we got one more book on the bottom half of the list, so let's check it out and see what it is.
Number 6.
Our next book is a free book. That's right, Free Comic Book Day from 2007, Amazing Spider-Man #1. Yes, we've seen this book before, and we're seeing it here again. Why? Well, once again, with brand new day, everyone's expecting to see Mr. Negative show up, and he does cameo inside of this Free Comic Book Day book. Also, the bits about Jackpot, etc. With all that said, the title of Brand New Day, the next Spider-Man film, a lot of people are speculating what we're going to see. Who knows exactly? But for now, a couple dozen sold, which is an increase of over 1,000% from last week. That's right, over 1,000%. Averages up 80% from last week, up to $18, where last week they were selling for like $10. Highs, $40, which is a 300% increase from, again, that high of $10 last week. So from last week to this week, it's averaging 18, hitting highs of 40 with that jump in volume. CGC 9.8s are still $250 on this free book. That's right. This was Free Comic Book Day. This came out in 2007. Yes, I realize that was almost 20 years ago, but it was still free when it came out. So that's an impressive increase, however you decide to look at it. But with that said, volumes, prices, all on the upswing right now as folks are looking forward to a brand new day, and this earns itself its spot here at number 6. And with that, we still have the top half of the list to get into, so let's kick it off right now.
Number 5.
All right, so at number 5, we are dropping a spot from last week with 247. Fantastic Four, 247. This was up there a little bit higher at number 4 last week, but it has fallen a little bit. No fault of its own, as it is still up across the board. This is the first appearance of Doom's kid. What's his name? Kristoff, if you will. 40 plus sold this week, which is a 33% increase on volume. Averaging $16, which is a slight increase from last week's $15 average, but it's because highs are now hitting $50, which is a 100% jump from last week's high of only $25. So you can see, yes, there are still cheap copies moving, but all in all, prices are on the uptick. Volumes are on the uptick as folks still keep buying more Doom and more Kristoff, if you will. CGC 9.8 this week sold for $380, which is a lower number than last week, but last week's, I believe, was a Mark Jewelers. So, those always get an extra premium. This $380 was for just a regular vanilla flavor version of this book. So, definitely a jump, definitely an increase, and something to keep an eye on. But it dropped a spot because, again, it's not standing out with the increases that we're going to see with our last few books. So with that, let's see what our last few books actually are with our next one at number 4.
Number 4.
This is another book that I was actually selling pretty well last week. Granted, a lot of the sales last week, much like this week, are still in the cover price range, but there are intermingled in a lot of those higher price sales as well. This week, we've seen more of those $10 to $20 sales than last week, which is why I felt like now was the time that we could put Fantastic Four First Steps #1 here on the list. That's right. This is the book just came out like a month or two ago in concert with the movie. Phil Noto cover here. You see the team wearing their new uniforms that they're sporting in the flick. There are 2 versions of this cover to keep in mind here as well. Both of them are selling equally well, so keep an eye on both, as you will see the slight difference as we move on to the OG original uniforms that are also as a version on the cover, also by Noto. But with 60 plus sold, averaging $15 now, highs hitting $21 for this book that, again, it's only a month or two old. That's not bad. And sets of both covers, both the Notos, I've seen sell for $60. So that's quite impressive for a book that's not all that old, thanks to the warm reception that the film actually got. I get it. It's not breaking box office records like many people would hope and expect, but I think critically it has done well and has surpassed a lot of folks' expectations on what that film was actually going to be. So with that said, I'm looking for more of the Fantastic Four, and I'm not even a Fantastic Four reader or fan. I know of them, they're not my favorite group of all of the teams and everything out there in the universe, but I enjoyed the flick, and I think this is an interesting book. But with that said, we still have our top 3 left, so let's see what we got left on the top of the list here.
Number 3.
Here we have another repeat, and our last repeat on the list, and dropping from that top spot last week, we have that Robert Downey Jr. post. So the IG darling post of his that's got everyone still speculating on Kristoff because of this book. This is West Coast Avengers 35, pretty cool Doom cover. It's here again on the list, but dropping a couple of spots. Even though volumes are still very high, volumes are less than last week. We still have 100 plus sales, which is more volume than we see on most books. But considering the huge volumes of last week, with almost 200 copies sold, it is a bit of a dip, which is why it's dipping 2 spots down here on the list to number 3. But prices and averages are actually up to $37, which is a 23% jump. The one standout sale that I wanted to highlight here is a $242 for a raw Mark Jewelers copy. That's right. Mark Jewelers copy, $242 raw. Crazy. People will pay a premium for those newsstands, for those Mark Jewelers, and for those extra little weird niche sort of collectibles, the Canadian price variants, Australian price variants, etc. Always look for those odd flavored versions of books, especially when things like this start to get hot, because those extras will get you extra. Now, with that said, that is our number 3 book, which leaves us with 2 new ones here in the top 2. So without further ado, let's see what they are.
Number 2.
And here at number 2, we've seen this book on the list before, and it's back again. Amazing Spider-Man 546, the kickoff issue of Brand New Day. It all starts here. Wow. Remember when they were releasing this book 3 times a month? I still can't get over when they're doing the double month, drops. Two issues a month is too much. Just give me one a month so I can keep up and not have to, kill my comic book budget. But with that said, this issue, 546, is here again with that Steve McNiven cover. Again, we have the Brand New Day movie coming. A lot of speculation on what that will entail, causing a lot of books like this to still see spikes coming up even till today. 60 plus sales, which is a 644% increase from last week's volumes, averaging $25. Highs hitting $45 again. CGC 9.8s are $1.75. So once again, this book has been here before, rises and falls, ebbs and flows. We see those dips. Now it is on one of those peaks. So hitting 60 plus sales at these prices. We'll see if it maintains and if all of this stuff actually comes to fruition when the film is actually released. But for now, this is a book that a lot of folks are going back and picking up, this past week. And with that, that is our number 2 book, which leaves us with only our top book left.
And our number 1.
And our number 1 book, thanks to the news that we may be getting a Spider-Punk animated spinoff of some sort. We're all waiting for that, Miles Morales' final movie to wrap up the Beyond and Across the Spider-Verse. But spinning out of it, Spider-Punk was a standout character, and I'm not surprised if they do spin him off into something else. I'd be into it. I'd be interested. But Amazing Spider-Man 10 is back on the list once again, thanks to that news regarding Spider-Punk with a huge jump in volume. Basically, there was like a couple of sales last week. Now, 40 plus sales already this week, with that being a 900% increase on volume, with averages back up to $35, highs hitting $60 again, while CGC 9.8s, much like our last book, also at $175. There are multiple versions of this cover, of this book, with a couple of the other covers, so keep an eye on those as well, including the Gabriel Delato connecting cover set variant. That's another one that's doing well. But this is the one to keep an eye on most. That is the regular open order cover A that a lot of folks are gravitating towards. There are other versions that you should watch as well, but this is the one, again, that we have with a nice jump in volume, a decent jump in price, and a lot of folks getting excited again with that news. Who knows when this project will actually, or if it actually does come to fruition, but for now, it's caused a spike in the market, earning itself that top spot, and at the top of our list here with Amazing Spider-Man number 10, Spider-Punk. Now, Hopefully you enjoyed that list as well as all the other stuff here we have on the channel, but don't go anywhere. The boys and the qualified are starting up next. As soon as I'm done here, they'll have the outside looking in and all their other fun segments that they usually run on Fridays, along with a spotlight this week on Michael Turner. Yes, Michael Turner is still a strong seller in the marketplace, still an excellent artist and artist that a lot of folks are still collecting and chasing. So let's look at the boys spotlight starting up after this show. And once again, make sure you guys all come back tomorrow for Kyle-a-Palooza and the claim sales to help benefit Kyle tomorrow night for SNS. So with all of that said, I'll see you all later with some more content, and take it easy. All right.